Start streaming, create a new live broadcast. If you want to ping your server, I'm gonna ping mine. Then we'll do, actually, let's do a quick audio test on the stream before we ping our servers. Once the stream goes through on my YouTube, we'll just like test audio. If you want to ping your server, I'm gonna
Test
ping
audio.
mine. Say a couple things.
Test audio.
Actually, let's do a quick audio test on the
Should be
stream
fine. Can you
before
hear
we
me?
ping our
Let's see.
servers.
Let's see.
Once the stream goes through on my YouTube, we'll just. All right, sounds pretty cool. I'm gonna try and test audio. Jack both of us up a bit. Say a couple things.
Audio.
Actually, let's do a quick audio test.
Should be fine. Can you hear me? Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, properties, perfect. All right, sounds pretty cool. I'm gonna try. Nope. Jack both of us. Oh, advanced audio properties. Audio output capture.
Should be fine.
We'll do +7. Say something again, just in a normal conversation with.
Test. Hello, I'm Zofox. How are you?
Oh, advanced audio properties. Audio output
Does that sound okay?
capture.
Let's see.
We'll do +7. We gotta just wait till the audio delay. Say something again, just in a normal conversation with.
Test. Hello, I'm Zofox. How are you?
All right, sounds pretty good. Let's see.
Does that sound okay?
So now I'm gonna just ping everyone in my server to come to the stream with a quick link. Share. Copy link.
Test. If you could also send me the link to
Yep, I got you. Sounds pretty good. Let's see. Link. Everyone live with the owner of you. What? Hold up. Is this link not working?
No, it's private.
Oh no, it's private. That would explain why no one's here. Oh, let me fix that real quick. It's private because that would explain why no one's here. Hold up. Oh geez, where do I fix? Private, public, done, save. Does the link work now?
Private.
Yes. All right. So
Okay.
let's begin. All right, let me just take off the starting soon text. Move this to my second monitor. So just kind of fill me in. What is UV? Like, how did you start it? Like, what are you? Just fill me in on like the basic general background of this concept.
I'm Zofox. I'm the owner of Ultraviolet. What is UV? UV is an organization built around top performance in games, for example, like Valorant, Apex, and Overwatch, as well as aim trainers. We have a lot of top aim training players as well. What we want is we are a community based around these games. We provide different resources for in the future, which we are working on currently to improve at those games in an educational way, as well as create content from our content creators, which are top players in their games. For example, we have if you look at Valorant, they will most likely be Radiant players, or in Overwatch they would be GM players.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I noticed you got AOD in here. AOD has been on the stream before talking, and that was a few days before he came over to UV, I think. We got Goria. Goria's like similar skill level. You got a lot of high quality players in this group. So what made you want to like get involved with this project?
UV, or in general, like
Just UV,
focus.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
UV.
with the general focus right now. Mine in the past has been on the aim training aspect, which is why we got a lot of top players, and like AOD, like Cav, like Varia, all the big names we're working on as which is kind of obvious on benchmarks,
Mhm.
which is the main aspect of
Mhm.
we're like what we're currently working on. In general, those people came in because they believe in the organization and the team.
Mhm.
In making like there are a lot of groups out there right now which are relatively stagnant, and we want to
Mhm.
change that and grow the scene because there hasn't been going on a lot. It's been
Mhm.
pretty much the same over the last 1 or 2 years,
Mhm.
my opinion.
So you really want to change things. So how'd you convince people to get involved on your dream? Like everything's been stagnant. I feel like no one's been able to make any changes, and then all of a sudden, boom, you guys come out of nowhere and now you're working on projects. So like how'd you convince people to come and join you in this vision?
It's pretty simple. Like we have a lot of dedication and passion to make a change. We have people with the knowledge and the ability to change things. Like I'm in the position to enable people who are competent. At UV, for example, we
Mhm.
have all very competent people, and I'm trying my best because
Mhm.
if we look at other organizations in our scene, it's usually that a lot of people are unhappy with the stagnant aspect and the management aspect.
Mhm.
What we're trying to do is we allow those top people to actually do what they're good at, right? That's one of the
Mhm.
aspects. Supporting your members. What I personally care about a lot is
Mhm.
providing value to our members. Like a lot of those organizations that just do content, or like our aim groups. Like we're not just an aim group. We're an organization. Um, there's a huge difference what you provide to your members. Meaning, not just yeah, you have a tag in front of your name.
Mhm.
Like that's not what we want. That's not what we are.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Um,
agree with you. That makes sense. So, what's the project you're most excited for that you're working on right now?
Right now, short term, definitely the benchmarks because we're
Mhm.
still working on the foundation. Like, in general, like we had like an ownership swap. In general, I joined UV 2 months ago.
Mhm.
Been working on a lot. It's been quite a lot of work that I've put in a lot of time. Um, Benchmarks are definitely the biggest short term goal. In general, what I'm looking forward to the most is probably seeing like there's a lot more we're working on, right, which we can
Mhm.
talk more about later a bit. But seeing where we are probably in 6 months, I think that's what I'm most excited for, and comparing what UV is today because we're still like so much in the like
Mhm.
beginning compared to what we will be in like 6 months, for example.
Mhm. So, break me down on how you want to create these benchmarks. Like you said, everything's been stagnant in the scene lately. You can't just release another benchmarks. Obviously, you don't want to leak everything, but just releasing another benchmarks. I mean, people have done that a million times over. What's going to make this an actual different experience?
It depends. What actually are benchmarks for people? In theory, benchmarks are a way to assert your skill level. That's what benchmarks in
Mhm.
theory should mean. But in reality is, benchmarks are a lot more. They're supposed to provide a lot more. They're supposed to make you improve a lot. There are people, for example, if you look at biggest community, if you look at like those people just play those benchmarks over and over again and over the same scenarios, and they supposed to make them improve a lot and be scenarios that you can learn from a lot because there's scenarios, as your viewers and yourself know, uh, there's a big difference between actually measuring your skills, like scenarios you will play to improve, or scenarios to see how good you are. Like what we
Mhm.
definitely want to do is make scenarios that make you improve a lot because there
Mhm.
are a lot of scenarios that are not that good at it. Like there's a major issue in that regard in a lot of benchmarks. And what we also want to obviously change is the fun aspect because aim training is usually seen as something that people don't really enjoy that much. What we definitely want to do and are focus on in having the ability like to make benchmarks enjoyable and actually having fun while you play, and it's not making it like a chore that you have to do.
So, what what is your approach to make benchmarks fun? Like, how does someone change that? Because I mean, aim training, it's only so complicated. A lot of people like enjoy different aspects of multiplayer games, like the competition, being able to play with their friends, like in a bunch of different stuff like that. So how are you really trying to get that level of fun, or at least some amount of fun that you can get people involved into your benchmarks?
Um, Fun is it's quite hard.
Enjoyment.
Like games, yeah, fun in games is basically the same. What do we actually enjoy about games? Like if we look at FPS, it's like in Valorant. It's when you get a kill, for example, when you win a round,
Mm-hmm.
trying, or when you get a high in aim training, it would be when you get a new high score. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are the moments you actually
Okay.
enjoy the
Okay.
most. Trying to make scenarios that just feel good. Like it's very subjective and hard to really objectively judge very well, but
Mm-hmm.
something that's not too frustrating to play, meaning there's a good balance between scenarios that are too easy and too hard to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely something we care about because we don't want it to be boring. We don't want it to be hard, so it's frustrating for a
Mm-hmm.
majority of the player base. Um, in general, like they're finding a good mix there of what just feels good to play for most people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And hmm. And about how do you make a benchmark improve people's skills more? Like, what's your approach for that?
In general, like having but how do you actually make benchmarks? On what, like how they're going a step back there. We are looking what the main skill sets are because usually when people make benchmarks, they break it down into clicking, tracking, and TS. Those are like the three
Yeah, that's the same
categories.
thing. Basically, everything, same thing everyone's been doing for the past years. I agree.
Yeah, yeah, those are. It's hard to really because in we're looking when we look at aim training, there are a few main skill sets or aspects which you can put different names to, which you want to measure and want to improve because those transfer to like the games. That's actually what why most people aim train. If we ignore aim training mains is like those improving those skill sets to be able to actually get better at the games and those scenarios being able to improve those skills. What we want to do is slightly put minor adjustments to the categories and
Mm-hmm.
making them a bit more detailed because for example what was very like usually in clicking you would have static and dynamic, in tracking you would have reactive and precise, and in TS you would have evasive TS normally and speed TS. Those are usually the six categories it gets down to most of the time. Yeah, we want to slightly make it more detailed, give people more information on what they actually do. Because improvement, you can't really improve well if you don't actually understand what you're doing. We want
Mm-hmm.
to give people a good understanding and resources what those benchmarks, those scenarios actually test, what they make you improve at. If, for example, if you're a Valorant player and you want to get better at Valorant, what should you focus on? What does actually matter for your game, right? Because if you're a newer player, you don't really understand what should you play to get better at your game, right? And providing more insight on that is
Mm-hmm.
something we care about. So improvement is it's a bit more complex, but let's say education, information, and the giving people more insight on general what they're doing is one of the main aspects.
All right,
And
so let's get into a bit of how you got into this project, how you got into aim training in general. What made you start aim training?
I used to play competitive, played Siege competitive in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I wanted like in Siege it's attack FPS. If you like Rainbow Six Siege, it's not the game where aim matters the most, but I felt like it just seemed nice to me back then. Like I saw aim training and it was fun. It felt fun to play to me, and seeing like that's actually a long time ago when I started playing it. I think
Mm-hmm.
it was like 2020. Um, it was just felt enjoyable to me. I saw progress in game. I saw even though aim didn't matter that much in Siege, I still felt a difference by playing things. It's really nice seeing. I'm a person who like same thing for going to the gym. Like it's very nice to see numbers go up. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just the raw improvement aspect, seeing it translate into your game, seeing that you're able to just have like be better at what you do. Constant improvement is something I enjoy, and obviously the competitive aspect of getting better.
Okay, that makes sense. So you said you played it competitively. Like, to what degree did you? How far did you get? Like, was you scrimming on a team, or how are you going with that?
I was scrimming every single day for nearly 2 years consistently with
Mm-hmm.
minor breaks. I retired when I got a proper pro contract
Really?
because I realized, yeah, I retired because I realized that like I was not a tier one pro, meaning I would have basically uh, gotten a part-time salary for like a full-time, more than a full-time job, which is
Mm-hmm.
not something I realized that in my life. While I enjoy competitive a lot and competing a lot, the for myself, it's not after playing so much and seeing getting such a deep insight in competitive as a player
Mm-hmm.
myself. I realized that it's not something that I want to do with my life or dedicate
Mm-hmm.
myself fully to after realizing what kind of risks there are as well.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what made you start aim training from that? Was that still while you were competing, or was it a bit after?
Uh, like properly, like I aim trained a bit while I was competing, but it was more after. Like
Mm-hmm.
I started aim training when I competed, and afterwards, after I retired, I played more again because aim training for me was like it filled a bit of the competitive hole. After I retired, I noticed that I like not as much as I used to. Um, I enjoy competing still, and
Mm-hmm.
aim training kind of filled that hole
Good
for
point.
me.
Good point. So, what? So how? So you obviously found enjoyment in a lot of benchmarks, right? Through that,
Yeah.
because you were able to compete in aim training again. So, did you come into it trying to like trying to improve at Siege still? I'm guessing when you started playing more and more, or was it after you quit competing you really just decided you were going to compete aim training after you quit competing Siege?
It's actually.
Does that, I don't know if that made sense.
I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure if I understand the
Basically, what I'm
question
saying is,
correctly.
after you quit competing Siege, were you still aim training to improve in game, or or was at that
And
point when you decided to kind of make the full switch to just like really focusing on that?
I think after like aim training from in the beginning from me was just not aim training for aim training itself,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Really?
aim training main perspective. Yeah, for a bit because it was just seeing like getting better,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to play a game. I was trying to get better mechanically to play another game and enjoy it for my like
Mm-hmm.
just play for enjoyment and not play like competitively. Just be like a ranked player if you want.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's probably what I was looking for back
that
then.
makes sense. That makes sense. So after you started aim training, you obviously got very into the benchmarks, and that's kind of how you got into the whole UV scene. So that makes sense. So tell me, other than your benchmarks, what other projects do you have on your roadmap
Uh,
that you're
from
allowed to
an
leak?
organization perspective, yeah, sure. Um, we want to focus on Valorant. We're focusing on pushing our Valorant content more because we're an
Okay.
organization, right? Where there's a lot more. We're not an aim group. At the end of the day, UV is not an aim group. It's we want to be in the future become a proper professional organization. What we're focusing on, except the benchmarks right now, is TikTok content for daily Valorant content on TikTok on our TikTok page, which has been inactive for a while, and we definitely want to use the content from our members and provide like top tier gameplay there.
Mm-hmm.
So I support our members as well and just grow there a bit. That's something we're working on. Another aspect is what we're working on is for Overwatch players. Some of you from of the aimers might be soldier players. We're gonna working on introducing 1v1 system for DPS players, for like soldier
Mm-hmm.
tracers, Widowmaker players, and getting
Mm-hmm.
that integrated into Discord with like a leaderboard system
Mm-hmm.
and some prizes for that. Those are things we're currently working on,
It's pretty
which
cool.
are planned
So what's your
come
approach to make
season.
entertaining content? Will it be just highlights and educational content? What are you trying to get with that?
Uh, it's a mix. Like we want to do for TikTok, what just does well, what most people like to see is just gameplay. In general, like educational content wouldn't be that great because TikTok is like you're such a short time frame to get like attention and actually improve. It's more like TikTok is more for gameplay and maybe random like a rare funny moment compilation, but YouTube would be used for more educational aspect and what we also want to do in the future, which is we want to focus more on the educational aspect. Can't go into exact detail, but what, for example, if you look at like in general, other organizations and coaching is something we care about. We want to help people improve and help the community. Like coaching is more of a thing in the pro scene, but there are a lot of ranked players and people who just want to improve in any game. Like we want to help people improve at anything, like at Valorant, at aim training, at Overwatch, at Apex. We want to help provide more resources on in that regard and help people improve.
Okay, cool. So like resources, you'll be providing obviously the content. Will you be working on YouTube? Will you be working on any like free coaching type seminars or paid coaching type seminars or like things that are more not in Discord or other media other than YouTube?
We can say that much. We're working on
All right.
our own website,
Mhm.
and there's gonna be a sort of we're gonna have content that is gonna be free to consume,
Mhm.
where like there's just a gap which for an organization to create the best content for the coaches and the players. There's just necessary to monetize it in a way because
Mhm.
we just like at the end of the day people need to make like if you're a top player or a pro at something, you need to make a living off of it in a way. It's just how it works at the end of the day. To create the highest quality content,
Mhm.
we need to monetize it at least to a small degree is what we're looking to do. So
Mhm.
there's gonna be mix of free and paid content in the
That's
future.
reasonable. So, mix of free and paid content, that is reasonable. So, are you also working on various game specific routines for aim trainers? Because obviously, a big part of your selection right now is aim training players.
Yeah, we're working on like that's also very obvious. We're working on an Overwatch, a Valorant,
Mm
and in the future also Apex routine. Those are kind
hmm. Mm
of can say that like those are we want to help again help people improve, and those are
hmm. Mm
one
hmm.
of the more obvious things.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hmm. So, hmm. So, what's your plan for making those routines, right? Like, who's gonna make them? How are you gonna make them different from other routines and all that stuff?
Routines wise, let's if we for example if we have like a top player, top Overwatch player who's also really good at aim training, people like Psef, or AOD would be focusing on creating those routines because sometimes when you have routines which are made by people, for example, I'm not an Overwatch player. I'm decent to good level-ish at aim training, and when I would try to make an Overwatch routine while not understanding the game really well, then that would obviously not go well. So we have like the people who actually have the understanding of aim training and the games who work on those games, as well as our scenario creators who like we're working with, who is in general can say that like he's the most renowned scenario creator, which is Raspberry, which really helps.
Mm
Um, so I think the mix of understanding of actually understanding aim training uh and the game, as well as having like actually the best scenario creator, most likely,
hmm. Mm hmm.
is really helps, or one of the best.
So, break me down who you actually have in your group. You have scenario creators, aimers, content creators. Like, tell me about some of the other big names you got, and let's hear some other the people you want to promote.
Sure, sure. Like, who we recently picked up is Magic, who's a professional Valorant player, a French professional Valorant player for Wild. Like, another aspect that has been which we can talk about a bit. Usually, when you have like those pro kind of players, you there's like the esport aspect and there's like a content aspect, and having like an esports background myself, it's kind of harsh-ish for like an organization. You don't really want to go in esports usually if you're not like a tier 1 organization, because the financial risk, and as a player you kind of want to make like just esports is not really sustainable long term. Like that's kind of hard. What we want to do as well, which we already like kind of hinted at, is providing more of a home to those kind of players, those pro players and pro coaches, and giving them opportunity to work with us if their contracts allows us, and as well as like a professional play and a community aspect, like combining that. Magic would be a good example for that. Recently, tomorrow we're also gonna learn another person who I am not gonna leak, for example, is also rather well known in the scene. So that's another person who would fit that criteria in a way. So yeah, that's the first person who came into my mind.
Do you have any other people who you can leak who fit that criteria?
I mean, they're his teammate as well. Like, he was also a player for a while. Same French player. We have two of their white players. Another player for Overwatch would be Cursed. Cursed is really, really good at Overwatch. Or Noxious. Noxious is playing for Team Canada in the Overwatch World Cup. He was also a top player, obviously. Right, like he's representing Canada as a DPS. Those are probably, I would say, yeah. Seth is also a top player. Like, he's also really, really good at Overwatch. He also plays competitively. But yeah, those are people that instantly come to mind. And we have, and for Apex, we have, while they're still very good players, we have more content kind of creators. They are not that competitive. We have a few Japanese pretty big creators there as well, which don't really fit the English audience, I guess.
Fair enough. So, what's your plan for working with these players on the website, on coaching? Will like Magic be creating a course or doing coaching through your website?
Magic, for example, or people like those top players. In the future, what we plan on doing is two-way aspect, meaning we have the educational aspect that has been done. Though that idea is not entirely new. That you have your top player creating like the educational aspect, which is more public, which is not really website like general. What the plan would be is like paid content would be more locked behind the paywall on the website, and public content made by those kind of people, for example, would be pushed out on YouTube, or maybe if it's a really short example on TikTok. But
So,
yeah, that's the idea.
if I'm grasping what you're saying correctly, Magic's going to be more of a public face of the group, making some of your more public content, and you'll have different people working on the coaching and the paid website.
Yeah, if we have, sorry if I didn't break it down. If we're gonna, the top players or the professional players, if we make educational content, is gonna be more made by the pro players, and the content creators are gonna more focus on like creating gameplay,
Okay.
which will be pushed out, if that makes sense.
Okay, and then who
So
handles
yeah.
the coaching behind the scene? Would that also be the pro players, like on the website, the paid content?
That's another aspect. Working, as I already hinted at, in the esports aspect, it's not just players. It's also like being able to work with coaches, meaning you have
Okay.
some Valorant, Apex, Overwatch coaches who have like esports experience, or just coaching, like high level coaching experience in general. Being able to coach community kind of people on like on the side, or for example, if you were a tier 1 coach in the past and you retired, it's like a very big jump, because you go from working in immense amount of workload, and now, but you still got like your experience, and now you retire, and you kind of want to do like still a bit of coaching, but maybe not at the esports level or full-time level. Then you could still work with us and be able to still coach people in the community, and kind of at least make some of, because a lot of people feel the need to still do work in that regard and use their knowledge. So that's would be another option. Coaches from esports
Nice.
background.
So then, What are your more just aim training main players do? What's their role in contributing to this group and your projects?
Aim training main kind of
Gloria,
players.
AOD, or I guess AOD is pretty good at Overwatch too, but the people who most of their experience and most of their credentials are just through aim trainer scores.
Uh, the educational aspect also comes to aim training. Like originally we're gonna focus on like because you need to create a foundation, and the foundation is more gonna be we're gonna start more with the education aspect and the aim training aspect, and those top players, while they're not pro players, our aim training players, people like Erdi or Guerrilla, they're still able to create educational content with the same idea as we already talked about for games,
Mm-hmm.
meaning how like a part content publicly accessible and partly having content that is locked behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm.
That's what those people will be able to do, creating their and using their knowledge in creating like quality educational content, and obviously representing the Orca's top players.
And what's your process for creating a new scenario? Or for, let's say for your benchmarks, someone wants to create a new scenario. So you have people who are working on the actual content, people who are scenario creators. Like, how does that kind of interact within your group? How does that interact?
Um, the scenario creators, like um, it depends. We like the idea how you approach creating a scenario. You think about what do we need or what do we actually want, and then we like depending for benchmarks, we have like meetings where we go talk
Mm-hmm.
as a team and go through everything which we want or which we think is necessary or good to do, and then we talk about the skill set, what we should do, like what there is, what we could do new, because
Mm-hmm.
like again we want to for benchmarks, for example, we need to provide something new in a way as well. You can't just copy all of the old things over and over again. That
Mm-hmm.
just doesn't work. Um, because then you would be useless. Then you would create benchmarks or scenarios that are totally unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about what you want is or like what you want to improve is like step one. Then talk about with like different people. Then approach like the scenario creator, go through it and rework it till it works, and you're got what you want. That's I think pretty
That's
much the
reasonable.
way you approach it.
So, hmm. So, do you have a date for when you're planning to release your benchmarks?
Um, like we don't have an exact date, but the plan, like what the if to give a rough estimate, we're probably looking at May, mid-May and May-ish is probably what we're looking at. Like time-wise, not like
Okay.
a exact date, because there's obviously looking here. We have to look at our competitors as well. Like like our AAs, if they release their benchmarks, for example, we don't want to release ours at the same time, so people don't really overlap, because we want don't we that's just from a competitive aspect, as like different organizations that wouldn't help anyone in that regard. So we have to kind of time that bit of that as well.
That's reasonable. That's fair. Hmm. Let me just think for. So, you got the benchmarks, you got your routines coming out, you got your website coming out. So, those are all some pretty big projects that require a lot of all hands on deck type things. So, what steps have you actually done to make more content improve, if that makes sense? Like, what I get how your benchmarks work now, I get how your website's going to flow roughly, but what are you actually doing to get the content coming out more often? Like, how often are you guys uploading nowadays? What are your plans to get more uploads coming, better uploads? What are your plans for that?
Per uploads, there's a lot, like you have to set up having players create their content, meaning, for example, the TikTok, which we already talked about, which is like the next thing we're gonna focus on, uploading daily. Like we want to upload content daily, gameplay content daily, or funny moments on our TikTok, getting our editors ready, meaning I got editors ready to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And uploading daily. We haven't started uploading on it because I had to get everything set up, but we still need like to go through a few more players, but we should be done probably end of this week with getting players set up, editors we already got all in, and then we should probably start uploading in a bit more than a week daily from now
Okay.
on.
So what's the
That's
advantage
fun.
for a player to upload to join the group and upload to your page rather than put the content on their own page? What do they get from that?
Um, in a first aspect, they can obviously upload to both pages, right? We can obviously editing costs money. That's the first thing. Getting that paid from the org is obviously nice. And not having to take care of that makes it a lot simpler. As well as like obviously the social media representation, having an organization or a group that has a bigger reach gives you the ability to grow. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that really helps yourself, meaning you grow faster. Those are like the growth aspect is probably the biggest aspect, as well as if you're looking for to receive something like if you're a mid-level or like medium-sized creator, it's harder to obtain someone from like a sponsor, and doing that through an organization is always or a partner. Like for example, for peripherals, like if we look at Skypad, for example, who we partnered with, if you're not like it's easier to get that through the org and as a as a gift or
Mm-hmm.
support we're supporting it so someone instead of just reaching to them out yourself.
From
Those are
personal
the
experience, I can say it's not too hard to get
yeah
Skypad.
because yeah, but you're also like a not that small kind of
I
creator as
have
well, right?
I have four Skypads and the wooden cutting board Skypad and two
That's fair.
Skypad arm sleeves. I paid for none of them.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm gonna. My plan for the summer is I'm gonna be smashing Skypads to see if how easy they break. But yeah,
I'm actually curious how that was gonna go. I'm
um,
actually curious.
I'm excited too. It'll be a fun video. And then let's see. I got a few. But yeah. So would you have you done anything to kind of connect the Skypad brand to like some mid-level, let's say 3,000 subscribers on YouTube can maybe get somewhere between 1 and 5,000 views per video, and let's say that person is in your group, how would you try and connect them to the gear to get them some kind of sponsorship, whether it be like a very small paid promotion, because I mean reasonably they could get like $50 for that video, but if they do like 5 videos, then all of a sudden that's worth like $250. So maybe like, you see what I'm saying? Like, have you done anything to help, or do you have any plans to help mid-level creators in your org connect to brands
That's actually a very good point.
in a paid way
Um,
rather than just a free stuff way?
that's another aspect that would require that for that to happen. In a way, it's hard to do that through a brand if you're or no,
Mm-hmm.
through an org if you're not. Let's say we're sponsored by company X,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could do that, but that requires us to be to be like sponsored by a company X to actually make that happen, because
Mm-hmm.
if you're a medium-sized creator, it would be easier. Like that would actually be extra work for you, the creator, and for the sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
as well as like us. Like that would not really make sense if we're not sponsored by them. Like that, I don't want to hurt people or creators in any way, and that would just probably hurt them. So if we're not sponsored by company X, then probably not, like that doesn't really make sense. But if we're
Mm-hmm.
sponsored by company X, I haven't really thought about that. I'm gonna be honest, like what you just
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, because even though it's a probably very obvious aspect, um, like that's definitely something that would be awesome to be able to provide. Like I would definitely like to do that as well.
Um, that makes sense. So, like, I'd say that the advantage of a content creator being in an organization like this is they get taken advantage of less. Like, for example, about a month ago, when my last 3 videos were at 30,000, I want to say 100,000 and around 250,000 respectively, I got an email from a company wanting to do a sponsored video where they would send me a $30 mouse pad for free and I would make a video on it. Now, realistically speaking, even if you just take the lowest of those 3 view counts, like and then take a very reasonable number, the company should be like paying like a $300 fee for the sponsor, because like $10 per thousand views is pretty standard for YouTube, like definitely on the lower end of sponsorships. So I'd say like a lot of companies will try and take advantage of smaller creators. So like it'd definitely be a good thing if you guys can help prevent companies from taking advantage of smaller creators, if that makes sense.
Yeah, would
Like
definitely help.
that's
Like
the
to do that. Sorry,
even like
interrupting.
help with some of your bigger creators, like giving advice to smaller creators. Like I remember when I was first getting sponsorship offers, one of the people who helped me a lot, like make sure who gave me some advice on how to not get scammed by sponsors, was Noted. I texted him about it because it was right after we did a video together that I got the first sponsorship offer, and he gave me like a bunch of tips on how on who's actually trying to scam you, who's by like taking advantage of you, who's literally trying to scam you and like hack your channel, and who's just a legitimate sponsor, and how to kind of, so like having like advanced creators who know more about it in your group being able to like give advice to smaller creators is definitely a big advantage to help get smaller creators in the group, who then can grow and become the bigger creators, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the that aspect is like in general the scene we are in, the gaming scene, the esports scene, the content scene. There's a lot of people who want to take advantage of you. Like also looking at organizations, that's something I personally care about. We have a lot of organizations. I'm not sure how it is with sponsors because again, I'm not as deep into the content scene or aspect as I would be in the esports scene. A study of a lot of people who don't orgs, who don't play their players or their staff. That's for example something I care about a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like the because that in the end breaks organizations and players. Like it's like if you work, for example, that's not gonna happen at UV. Like if I promise someone to be paid X amount, and that person is gonna be paid X amount on like Y date, like on that certain day. That's it happens a lot, like that in esports or in gaming. Pay or salaries get well managed in a way that is not professional, and professionalism is something I care about, and like it make or breaks an organization in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like if I can help sponsors with if content creators with sponsorships and be able to support them in that way, I would definitely be glad to do that because again, providing value to members is a main goal because that's what an org is for. Therefore, you're not there just to have a tag at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day.
So let's say someone wants to join UV, they have a channel of 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. How do they get from like just seeing the group to actually being a content creator with you? Because we're talking a lot about signing mid-level players. You're talking about doing that. Like, what do they have to do? Do they have to be a pro or notable in some other way? Or like, what do they do to join?
It's not just size, as you already mentioned. What do they have to do? Like high skill is ideal, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for what we're looking for, of the direction we want to go in. High level play or high skill, meaning top ranked players. Like if you look at Valorant, for example, like Radiant level players and Overwatch, like top 500 players. You don't necessarily have to be a pro, but you would necessarily have to be like a very, very good player at the game you play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for aim tournaments, it's kind of the same. Like the people we're looking for are either top players overall or very, very good at like different categories. Those we don't really have any, like compared to other groups, we don't have any special criteria for what we're looking for, but we're just looking for the best in general.
That's
That's
fair.
like kind of obvious.
That's fair. So, do you have any like set way for someone to apply to join, or just kind of random right now? Or are you developing a way for people to apply, just for anyone watching this trying to apply now or in the future?
In general, like how do you join UV or how do you join those
Yeah.
kind of orgs?
Yeah.
Always like kind
In
of a
your
question for
you mhm.
people. Yeah, like it's we're not I can say the first things first. We're not really open to apply. There's no real direct way to apply right now. We are gonna like we basically handpick our people because who we're looking for is for aim tournaments, for example, it's just such a small amount of people that we would be interested in. That's not
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really make sense for content creation. Um, it's kind of like being able to pick out who we would like to work with and asking them if they're interested in working with us
Mm-hmm.
is fits the org and the brand better. To be able to build like the relationship you want and being able to work with the people you want, it's like better for both sides in my opinion. If
Makes
that
sense.
answers your question.
So you that makes sense. So what about editors? How many editors do you have right now?
We have a lot of different editors in the past because when I like UV has a lot of focus on like creativity aspect. Like when I after I recently joined and since I fully own UV now after Akko left, is the creativity aspect has been heavily pushed as well as like the art aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's something we care about a lot. We have let me check. I think uh, we have 10 different people who do editing for us.
Okay.
We have a few main editors, which is another new person who has done, for example, the magic edit recently, because we with the future being focused on creating a lot more content and putting a lot more content, I would like to reduce the editing team to have like a few more consistent, very people who are bound to do org. Like in general, what having less people do work for you, but
Mm-hmm.
being very consistent with them enables you like to create more of an identity and the same style if you want.
That makes sense. 10 editors is definitely a lot of editors. So let's see, you plan one TikTok video every day. That's like two editors at the most. And then,
Yeah.
so you're probably going to have a daily YouTube upload that'll be long form too, right?
Not next weekish. Like
But coming soon.
YouTube, but yeah, relatively soon. Like YouTube is probably what I haven't fully like we haven't really fully decided because like we what we want to focus on in the YouTube content in like at the beginning. We probably start releasing more content on YouTube next month, so it's like a
Mm-hmm.
bit further, a bit further away. But like daily, we will see. I would definitely say like multiple videos a week. We have to see for YouTube because like the content created is longer, so I'm not sure if daily uploads would make sense, but definitely looking for at least once a week, but most likely three-ish a week, I think is
Mm-hmm.
kinda a number that comes to my mind. But yeah, that's the
So what's
YouTube aspect.
your plan for that structure? You have obviously we know we have creators who are on hold who are paid to make content for your YouTube. You pay someone to make, let me think. You pay someone to make the videos, to edit them, obviously. You pay someone to set up the video. So would it be like a creator just records what needs to be recorded from their end and makes some like notes for an editor, just drops it in some private channel, a UV editor picks it up and just finishes it for them and throws that on the channel? Is that kind of your plan?
Um, yeah, that's gets pretty close. Like right now, which is because we're as an organization, we're not really like we're our content creators are not receiving a salary right now
Mm-hmm.
because
They're
we
not
don't
making
have
content.
like for yeah, that's like one of the reasons because we're not really pushing out content really a lot right now, especially with the ownership change and the general structure change and vision change that we had at UV, right? And turning try UV more into a professional direction. That took a lot of time. That's one of the reasons. And the second one is um, being able to pay creators as you know and on a monthly basis is focused around the size. We don't have any creators yet that would be the size that you would pay them instantly as a significant amount of money. It's obviously depends on what we're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the aspect as well as sponsorship. I'm like the whole organization is still funded by myself. Like I'm putting in my own time and money on making all of this work. That's why content creators, for example, are not yet paid on like a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm. That's reasonable. So, hmm. So, do you plan on then creating a per video pay or like a commission per view? Like, if that makes sense, like, how do you plan on starting to pay your mid level content creators? Because you did say it's very important to you to be able to be professional and pay people who are doing the work.
I'm most likely looking for what you already mentioned is like per video, most likely,
Okay.
especially with what you're like the size we're looking at, like people is do you how do you compensate them properly? Because monthly pay is not really ideal if you're because you don't want to pay people not enough, right? So that doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
it's like a really weird
Yeah, that's
situation if you're
reasonable.
like mid-size and you want to pay people fairly and not get into any trouble. So I think pay per video or pay for like the amount of content you bring in is fair, in my opinion.
That's reasonable. So, hmm, that's interesting. So, yeah, I think your group definitely has a lot of potential for how it's going to improve and all that. Let's see. Is there anything else you feel like we missed that we should cover in this before we kind of before we end the interview that you feel like is really important about UV that we haven't brought up yet?
One of the things that comes to my mind is, in general, the drama aspect that has been going on in the scene. Like, if we look at the competitors, there has been a lot of, which a lot of people don't like, including myself, is the drama and all the negativity and all the hate between different groups. Is that we don't want any kind of drama with another group or base our group around hating another one or saying we're in like better in every
Be
way. Like
professional.
the yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Like yeah, that's what I'm
Non-toxic
looking for.
professionalism. That's very reasonable. I feel like it's very rare to find when people in the group spend an average of like 10 hours a day on a computer. No offense to anyone, but it's just
Yeah.
like it's very good to find people who are still like mentally sane in this crowd and be able to be professional, and I agree that's important.
Like
So,
yeah,
with that, I feel like we've pretty much covered everything we need to cover. So, it's been a pleasure having you on here. Thanks for coming out. And once you start releasing some of these projects, I think we should do another one of these where we can actually go in depth on those.
sure, awesome. Like I'm happy to be on here. Like I'm glad to get a chance to talk to you on stream about all of these things we have been planning on, and obviously looking forward to presenting and showing the work we have been putting in.